I forgot to press it. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jared Malott,
My name is Mateo Galis.
and this is the Coltist, episode 23, where we were
Kenny Moore special, yeah.
the Kenny Moore special from Valdosta
Did you
States.
did you get a chance to watch like the Kenny Moore tweet about not talking shit about a player that's in the locker room,
Yes.
where he basically like it was basically throwing shade at I assume it was Carson Wentz. Look, he retweeted Stephen Reed. That's nice.
Yeah. There's some former Colts players that like every now and then, like I've liked their stuff before, like Clayton Gathers. Every now and then he'll like my shit. I've always thought I was being hard on Carson Wentz, pause, but I think that I may have actually been correct. It's just, well, I don't know that we'll ever know. I have this feeling that there's white supremacy, but there's this inevitability that Carson Wentz is going to maintain gainful employment in the NFL. He has the size and the physical capabilities to do the job, so he's going to continue to get opportunities, whether that is as a trade piece or he's just straight up fucking cut. So just to reiterate what we've already been over before, it's remarkable the fall that Carson Wentz is on. This is what he is on, is a fucking free fall. He went from traded for multiple draft picks, slated as the long-term answer, wonder kid, reunited with his former coach, match made in heaven, gonna be, to the Colts will move on from Carson Wentz via trade or he will be cut.
Yeah.
What did you do? So, we were talking about before we started recording, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,500 yards. If you're nice, that's okay. Those numbers are actually pretty good. A lot of franchises would be like, shit, we'll take that. You know what I mean? But something is terribly awry. And Kenny Moore, in my eyes, he just pointed out that this scab exists, right? Hey, don't rip that shit open. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to know what's under there.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's your little off-season fodder, right? Because again, one of the things that I want to keep pointing out, nobody's betting on Carson Wentz. He's not getting when usually when people are talking shit about you, you do a commercial. You know what I mean? That's not happening. There's no like, hey, what is it? John and Kate +8 for the Wentzes. You know what I mean? There's no human interest story on Carson Wentz and his family like there was on Philip Rivers in his 1-year stint. You know what I mean?
I remember.
He was beloved. Everyone was at his house, right? With Carson Wentz, I felt like he got here. I think what happened is he got here, he checked in day one. I think if I remember correctly, there was a video of him getting turned away at the door, which I understand that was also later in the season, and that it has nothing to do with what I am saying. But I have a feeling when he first got to the Colts facility, or maybe it was like when he first got to Mr. Irsay's plane and went to board, and they were like, "Hey, are you vaccinated?" And he was just like, "Oh shit, no." And they were just like, "Oh, fuck. I already paid the money for him." You know what I mean? And then from then on, it became like, "Hey, you going to get vaccinated?" And he was like, initially, yeah, I'll get vaccinated. And then he just didn't take it seriously. And then it got annoying to him, right? And I'm guessing, and I'm totally guessing about this, what has happened. But I have a feeling that, like, he had to have had exhibiting behavior outside of on the field. Right. Again, because I'm saying it had to be outside of on the field. Like, he had to be talking to himself. He had to have like a poor work ethic in the weight room or something. Like, maybe he wouldn't listen to the trainers. You know, the ankles thing I'll be thinking about for a while because I felt like there's a connection between him not being vaccinated and him not getting to sit the fuck out. I does that make sense?
Yeah, sort of like
It's like
not listening
Jim
to the
Irsay's like,
doctors.
dude, if you're not going to do what's in the best interest of the fucking team, fuck you. You are playing every goddamn down this entire season. I give a fuck. I want you dead. I don't care what. I don't care if Eric Fisher is fucking hurt and not playing after the season and retiring. He's starting at left tackle. Fuck you. I think that's what happened. And Jim Irsay was like, make it happen. Kill him. I want his career over. And then he gets hurt when it's Aaron Donald. And you think like, oh shit, that would take anybody out. And Carson Wentz is just, I'm going to pay a lot of fucking money. Fucking, I'm going out on top. I'm going to come out here and play hero ball. And he's just not very fucking good. So
No,
ultimately,
yes,
you're
it
like,
doesn't
oh
work
shit,
out.
it didn't work out for him. You know, he played himself right off your fucking team. Like, I'm telling you, he had to. Yeah, I'm telling you, he had to like talk to himself. Like he had to check the fuck out in the middle of meetings, like take phone calls. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah, just seem misinterested in what's going on around him.
yeah, I can totally see it. I have manic behaviors at time where like I'll send my boss pictures of my dogs and shit, and he's like, "You're supposed to be clocked in and working." You're like, "Oh fuck, I forgot. Like I have a job. Like it's real." You know what I mean? So like I have a feeling this like I said, man, the big thing for me is like the kid didn't leave the state until he got a job in the NFL. And if you think about bumfuck North Dakota or South Dakota or whatever, right? There's a big change in the sorts of sizes of communities from what I'm
Yeah,
coming to understanding from pro athletes, where you go from a collegiate athlete to a pro and your circle gets smaller, not bigger. A lot of guys talk about the only guys that they talk to are either guys that were on the team now or we played college ball together, right? And if you think about the sorts of connections, a guy like Carson Wentz, who where he played ball, and guys don't normally go to the league. And and he went to school in the state that he went to college again. So that means his high school is probably not putting guys in the league. The college he went to is not putting guys in the league. So it's like he doesn't have anyone that knows him from like when he was a kid before all this stuff. He doesn't have that person that like also got where he got. Right. So you can totally see writing on the wall. Like he thinks he's an alpha. He's a man's man. He comes into a locker room with a bunch of guys that have got a really nice culture going on. And I don't, it's like clearly that didn't fit. Right. So it's kind of going without saying in a lot of ways. Right. Has to be some fucking disconnect. There's no way there's not. I haven't heard a single fucking Colts player come out and be like Carson Wentz was a king.
yeah,
Like he treated everybody well. They didn't show on Hard Knocks Carson Wentz buying nice shit for people, right? Wasn't it Jonathan Taylor that bought the offensive line Louis Vuitton, right?
yeah,
Was that what I saw? Yeah, it wasn't Carson
yeah. It was
Wentz.
him.
Where was the watches? You know what I mean? No, he didn't buy him shit because he almost died on the field. You know what I mean? And he had to kind of choose. Do I want this job, right? Because if you think about if he's a nice guy and he gets rolled up like Aaron Donald rolled him up, he gets to sit and the fans still love him and he comes back a few games later and balls out, right? It's like think logically about this, right? If he
Yeah,
has a good attitude, think about this. There's no way I'm wrong, bro. I'm so right. If he's a nice guy, he gets rolled up by Aaron Donald. He says, Coach, I can't go. And if you're not a total
it's
prick,
yes, it's
they're
one or
like,
two
bro,
games.
take a couple games, rest the fuck up, come back when you're 100%. He comes out, balls the fuck out. And I get it. Jared, you're missing this major component. It's the on-field shit. It's his actual play. Okay, so what we believe in football is that you can be coached and that he's going to get another op. So if we know he's going to get another op, that means that somebody out there believes they can coach him.
Yeah,
They can make what he provides work. Frankly, I'm telling you, it's going to take like really good weapons because he's going to burn your weapons up. That's what he does. Is he wants to stretch the field, and if you don't have the bodies for that, he's going to end up costing you players because you're in a track meet and you don't have those kind of bodies. Flatly, lots of teams do not have the bodies for that. So yeah, I'm just what a fucking like he had to be a dickhead. Had to be like Kirk Cousins, one of the players we've talked about that's not going anywhere. Again, sort of a guy you haven't seen getting invested in by businesses in the community. He's not on doing commercials on TV and shit. So his job's always in question, I think. And there's a handful of players, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz. I can't necessarily think of very many others where you're almost a ghost within your organization outside of Sunday. They're not talking about Carson Wentz and I think Carson Wentz has a charitable organization that he owns, right? A 501c that he's dumping tax money into and shit. But outside of that, there's not videos of Carson Wentz doing charitable labor. He's kind of like a go to work and go home kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's what this organization demands.
No, yeah, you need a guy that's invested. Yeah.
You need it's almost like the Colts are saying we need a young unmarried quarterback with no kids that's got the time to devote at this position that a married man with children isn't going to be able to devote, because look at the slew of quarterbacks we've had, right? Andrew on his way out, married, baby on the way. Philip, multiple children. Carson, multiple children. I don't remember Jacoby Brissett. He's probably like international player, right? But because you didn't hear about his family neither. He was a guy that wasn't really invested in either. So it's almost like you can tell if a guy's gonna stick, if he's on the tube talking to you, it's probably all right, right? But it's that easy because I don't necessarily have that connection yet, but you can kind of. I'll put it like this: I've interviewed a few athletes and shit. There's a fence. Does that make sense? There's always someone talking to you before you talk to Pat McAfee. Does that make sense? That guy's checking to make sure you're not a fucking crazy person, right?
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is the people that get around him spend very little time around him. Because if you think about this, he's gonna get in and out in a year here. That's super quick for a dude that got traded for a first and a third and got paid a fuckload of money, right? So that's like a big ass. He wasn't supposed to be here for just 1 year. He was supposed to be the answer, right? It can't be your supposed to be the guy. If that's the case, it can't be your on-field play. It can't be, because his on-field play is middle of the pack. Because remember, we've talked about he has elite potential, but he has lower tier actual results, right? So you're like, that's a middling fucking quarterback in the NFL, right? Elite athlete, but like middling on-field results, like that's about middle league. So for the record, the Colts did upgrade just a little at quarterback, but the cost isn't justified. And because they can't justify the cost, like I said, I hope that's registering for anybody that listens to this. They're like, that actually kind of makes sense, right? They paid a heavy cost for Carson Wentz and are totally willing to just be like, nope.
Yeah, and just got him.
It had to be the vaccine thing. They had to know they had to have somebody that's more about being a part of this group of, he's going to unite us. You know what I mean? The organization needed a quarterback. We didn't need Carson Wentz. Does that make sense? Like we
like, he just a miss, just not
he's not the man, he's a guy. Does that make sense? He
It's
can
not
go.
even the guy.
He can go be a part of a great roster that's built to win. Doesn't matter who's behind the wheel.
Yeah, that's why I see him going perhaps, to Tampa
Tampa.
with
Yeah, that makes perfect
Berserkers.
sense for me. Or think about any of these, or like a San Fran for the record.
Yeah, I believe in
They're
San
gonna
Fran.
need a
Yeah,
back. They're gonna need a backup Trey Lance.
yeah,
Trey
to
Lance
back up Trey
is a
Lance.
little bigger, a little more mobile quarterback. Who are you gonna get to back him up?
Thing is, what are you willing to give up for a backup quarterback? Like a third, fourth round pick?
No idea.
Yeah, that should be enough.
I don't know, because I'd floated the idea, because on the last podcast we did, we said, look, half the league could be on the move at quarterback. That's not going to mostly happen through the draft. It's just like we talked about before we started. There's five or
Yeah,
six
not a great
players,
draft class. Yeah.
5 or 6 quarterbacks that are gonna get an opportunity, not necessarily to start anything other than like a preseason game. And there's maybe 2 or 3 guys that are gonna hang around for a while, and maybe one of these quarterbacks sticks. Okay,
Yeah, but there are just no guys where you're saying, okay, this is like a first overall pick at quarterback or like a top 5 pick, top 3 pick. None.
No, I think the highest I've seen, like Mel Kiper, is a top 10 pick, the Pickett kid from Pitt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
and
get
I'm
it.
not even that high on him.
No, again, I think he is a good athlete with a raw arm, and he's a 50-50 burger for me. You know what I mean? Like he'll either flame out or he'll get in the league, stay healthy, and develop his arm and be and decision making.
Yeah, and turn out great.
We'll see. I also think that there's a lot of quarterbacks that had a lot of success behind really good offensive lines, and are too slight at the position. I think that's part of Kyler Murray's deleting Arizona from his social media, was to get them to focus on protecting him. You know what I mean? I think he was one of the more hit quarterbacks in the league, if I remember correctly. So I think about that with the Colts. Definitely apparently have some money to spend. So there was an article today I read where even without the Carson Wentz stuff, they're looking at almost like 40 grand in cap space, like 37. So I hope that allows the Colts to make a few moves
at the very least,
to shore up the other holes, because again, it's not just quarterback here. I think that wide receiver room needs help. I think that O-line needs work.
Left tackle,
pass rush needs help.
Pass rush,
Safety,
definitely. That's,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it sounds like you have like plenty of holes.
yeah.
This
So
is not a well-rounded roster. You need weapons. You need probably just a left tackle on the offensive line. I'm not sure like I would spend money anywhere else. Tight end, you have no tight ends.
yeah,
Edge rusher, you have like Quiddy Pay, then nothing much. And linebackers, perhaps you need another man. Linebacker could be set, cornerback you're set, and you need 2 safeties at the very least.
right, to restock in the back end could spell some growing pains next year, right? So that's something we're going to tell you now here in late February, right? And the Kenny Moore episode, by the way, Kenny Moore also heavily targeted in that game against the Jags and did not look great in coverage. So that may kind of show you a little bit of the holes in the Colts defense. And I think
against the Raiders, he was also heavily targeted, Hunter Renfro.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the game-winning catch where he was ruled down afterwards, but it was like a touchdown initially where he like falls down. Darius Leonard misses the easy sack with the Derek Carr pump fake. Then Carr hits Hunter Renfro for like I believe it was like on 3rd and 10. and Carr hits Renfro for like a 24, 25-yard gain, which leaves the Raiders in field goal position and they win the game.
Yeah.
Going to shoot from there.
And I mean, to get it again, it's similar to the not knowing what's going on with Carson Wentz story. Kenny could very well have been healthy enough to play, not healthy enough to be in coverage in a game-winning play like that. Healthy, right? She's clearly trailing, not in a position to make a play in the ball, right? Very, very clearly says to me, while no major injuries there in that defensive sort of core with Darius Leonard and Kenny Moore, they kind of stayed healthy there through the late part of the season. But I have every reason to believe they were all a step slow, a little groggy coming back. Didn't have quite the energy. It has a lot to do with not being vaccinated. And again, it's something we've hit on for a while. It's going to have a lasting impact. It's going to affect people's careers. It's going to very clearly affect Carson Wentz's career. So it's like one of those things. People are probably rolling their eyes like, he's still talking about how this goddamn COVID vaccine is affecting the Colts, because it's very clearly had a factor in the fact that Carson Wentz is going to probably get released, bro. Like, released from a $30 million contract. You have to be a hard-headed, like impossible to get along with human being for someone to bet that on you and pull that off, right? To say, nah, actually I changed my mind. I don't want to do that. In fact, I'd rather him just not work for me anymore. If nobody wants him, and that's why I said on Twitter, I got a lot of likes, but I also got called a Looney Tunes by a lot of people, where I said, like, I actually think the value for Carson Wentz in this market is higher than we're giving him credit for, right? That's not saying like Carson Wentz is worth a whole bunch.
Just that his value is.
He's probably the fourth or fifth guy on that list that's going to move. He's still going to command near the money that he's got here. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the league. He definitely needs to be, again, on a team that's got a lot of star power around him, specifically a pass catcher, so that he can use those targets, right? Because that was apparently what I've come to sort of understand is his gripe was that the wide receiver room was kind of lean. That kind of upset the Colts today. In addition to bringing him here, I think there was a rumor early on about Allen Robinson, and it feels like we're by the way, I'm still seeing him connected to the Colts for what feels like the fifth or sixth season in a fucking row.
At least 3 to 4. Yeah.
I would call it that like a running joke, but it's almost like the Colts have missed it. You know what I mean? Clearly no one in the Colts staff is reading those fucking articles, because it feels like every goddamn year you're like, hey, this guy we could actually use that guy. No? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to adjust the wide receiver. Okay.
Perhaps this will finally be the year where it gets done.
Yeah.
I believe, like, from what I've seen, Robinson's relationship with the Bears is already broken. There is no chance he's coming back there. So yeah, might be the guy.
I literally feel like deja vu. This has exactly happened several years in a row. Stephen Reed said this on a podcast. I've said it. Allen Robinson would look great in a Colts, right? Like, yeah, we know, man. We wrote that shit last year too. But yeah, the Colts need help at wide receiver in any sort of, because again, I think that Jack Doyle could be gone. T.Y. Hilton
most likely
gone. And those two guys may not have been heavy producers, but when they played, they got targets. And so it's all about like who you're going to replace those with. Well, guess what? There's nobody. Mo Alley Cox is not replacing the level of targets
No, yeah,
that
not a
Jack
chance.
Doyle got last year. So it doesn't matter how many that was, 50, 60 balls. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. Mo Alley Cox is not catching an extra 50 fucking balls. It's
Yeah,
going
no
to have to
chance.
be. And I don't think it's that Grayson kid either. You didn't really get to see a lot of it. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Kyle Granson.
Yeah. I think they're going to have to get a tight end or a good tight end. So probably I'm guessing that has to be a free agency grab. And then of course I nothing has really changed since the last time we spoke about Derek. I still think Derek Carr could end up a Colt because of this Gus Bradley hire. That still sort of passes logic given the sorts of other things that are going on in the league, particularly there being no real tie between any quarterback and any new team. Like, don't you think that's kind of interesting? No movement, no
Yeah,
rumors.
nothing at all yet. Yeah.
It's been really quiet for the last week. The only thing I would say I have seen is several players sort of confirming they're on the way out the door, right? Like I think Jimmy G said goodbye, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers had sort of a cryptic thank you to all past and current teammates and players, right? Sort of noting a change. There will be sort of like a new group of players.
Yeah. Yeah. So we basically we have an established idea on who is going to be leaving.
Right.
We have no idea where they are planning to go.
No, there's not like
nothing.
You would think like a staff guy would get picked up, and then you're like, oh, here's this staff guy to Aaron Rodgers signing with the 49ers. That makes sense if they're gonna hire his trainer, or you know what I mean. Those kinds of things are gonna tip you off. That's why I've held fast to the Derek Carr to Indy, and that would be an instance where I think that the Colts might have to make a trade, and might actually have to give something up. We'll certainly see. But yeah, I also want to make sure we talk about the fact that the Colts hired 2 former players as coaches this week. And that's awesome.
Mike Mitchell and how do you pronounce
Mike
it?
Mitchell and Cato June. Yeah. He was good back in the day.
Yeah.
I think that player coaches are my favorite, and that ultimately coaching is a uniform cheerleader. And you know what I mean? You're telling people that know what they're doing, what to do. Okay. And then, you know what I mean? Coaching from my perspective is cheerleading without pom-poms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're basically trying to make sure they know that you are trying to give them good information and that you're trying not to get them killed. You know what I mean? But mostly you're just there to be like, it's all right. You fucked that up. It's cool. You didn't run the play I called. Here's what I would like you to run. Oh, you want to run that? You're going to do this because they're blitzing. Fantastic. Fuck me. Oh, okay. You want me to tell you what to do? Oh, cool. I'm not being forward enough. Oh, okay. Do this. No, fuck me. Perfect. Let me know when you need help. Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons I decided to be a player, is because in order for ultimately for this team to, it's just exactly for in order for the Indiana Cutters, the Indianapolis Colts, in order for these organizations to move forward, you have to solve for quarterback. And until the Colts are able to put on the table the guy, the Colts are adrift. A rudderless
quarterback purgatory. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. In quarterback purgatory. They're on the ferry between reality and Valhalla, right? Having paid their toll, they're just floating along with death until they choose someone,
Yeah, or they get it, or yeah, they get the guy,
or
whatever
they
happens
get
first.
sufficient enough value for Carson Wentz in trade that you can then replace him, right? And not all like fuck up your rebuild otherwise, right? Because that's the fear is you commit too many resources to a quarterback again, and it doesn't
Yeah,
work
he
out
doesn't work out
again.
again, and then yeah, then it's just time to like blow everything up, embrace the rebuild, start all over.
Yeah, because
Which I am
at
not.
this point you've basically Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard are guys that like are getting to the aren't getting any younger phase of their careers.
Yeah, and you have, in my opinion, a roster that is not like well built for today's NFL. Because you have I mean, no offense to Quentin Nelson, the guy is certainly amazing, but I'm not sure I'm really comfortable, paying a guy like paying a left guard so much money, paying your center so much money, paying, like who else? Like and Darius Leonard is justified, I love him, on the roster, but
Yeah,
having so much money committed on the offensive line is just something that I'm not sure that is the way. Like,
especially given their performance last year, that sort of makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, that's also like a big factor. But Danny Pinter, came in, played really well. That's a guy in his rookie contract. Chris Reed came in for Quentin Nelson, played amazing. He was really solid. It wasn't like so. Yeah, basically, like if you are able to find these guys for like a fifth of what you're paying Ryan Kelly, a tenth of what you're going to pay Quentin Nelson. So do you really need to spend that much money on them, or can you like spend that money elsewhere? On perhaps on a receiver, on a quarterback, on a safety, defensive end. You really need a defensive end. You weren't able to find one. Chris Ballard like missed on every single defensive end he picked. Banabu, Kemoko Toure, Tarell Basham, which was the other guy. Tycoon Lewis, more or less. Quiddy Pace looking fine, but he's looking fine. He's just a rookie.
Right.
But you need edge rushers. I wrote an article the other day where I'm probably AQM's biggest hater. But when you start looking at the numbers and you start getting really deep into the numbers and you say, how could Ballard go out and say, okay, this is a guy that I want getting over 75% of snaps. It's just like, why? And you're like, okay, that money that you're paying Ryan Kelly, that you're going to pay Quentin Nelson, I think it could be put to much better use.
Are you saying like you could get rid of guys like Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly, get good value for them, and then continue your build of this
I mean,
program? I guess.
just by looking at how like the playoffs teams were built, they are not spending that much money on the offensive line. They
No,
are spending that money elsewhere, that capital elsewhere, positions that, in my opinion, make more of a difference. Like if I told you right now, like, Jared, for your team, what would you rather have? An all-pro wide receiver or an all-pro left guard?
I think it depends on the team.
Yeah, it depends on the team. Just imagine like hypothetical case, a team where you have like uh, average starters all around. Would you rather have a left guard or a wide receiver?
Of course you'd rather have the wide receiver because you need the points, right? You need the 10 plus touchdowns that a star wide receiver typically comes
Gives
with.
you, yeah.
He's typically the difference between winning and losing a game.
Yeah, and it's
Frankly,
also like supply and demand where I mean, Ballard proved, you can go out there and find like at least average production from your guard spot for pretty much like 4 or 5 million a year.
mhm.
Now, 4 to 5 million a year, or wide receiver, what does that get you? Zach Pascal, like nothing,
Yeah, I was
nothing.
gonna say more of the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gets you nothing. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, I'm not sure I want to pay Quentin Nelson. What are we estimating his contract to be like? Probably like a 5 year, 80 million, something like that.
Oh, sure.
Probably, more or less. I would honestly, as much as I love Nelson and I really fell in love with the guy and his style of playing, I would much rather see that money, spent on say like Christian Kirk, Michael Gallup, a guy like that.
I don't think they're gonna do that. I think they're gonna
Yeah,
just
I don't think that either.
they're gonna spend draft capital on wide receivers. Um they're gonna have to. Another area where the Colts haven't necessarily hit consistently. That's I still have nightmares about Deion Kane, Paris Campbell. You know what I mean? Like there's just the wide receiver room was a triage unit for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly an interesting time to be a Colts fan, and wouldn't trade it for the world. I would much rather be in a state of constant wonder than knowing that Daniel Jones is going to lead you to 6 wins the next year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I would much rather sit here with you and say, I can't wait for the Colts to figure it the fuck out. That's going to be so cool when they get this new guy in here and he's actually embraced by the city and you feel like this guy's can win for you. And again, I think it's the sort of person they are that and that's again why a lot of people I think have been thinking it's Russell Wilson, because his sort of Jesus-y shit kind of vibes with the Colts. And then I also think like a guy like I think Kirk Cousins falls into that category of Jesus-y people that sort of fit that thought process. So again, like I said, my bet's Derek Carr because of the Gus Bradley hire, but I totally get there's a lot of people out there that are like, no, it's he's got to be really down to earth. And like in the organization, you'll know that this is a cult, and
Yeah.
for the
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they went out and like get a quarterback with that second round pick. That wouldn't surprise me.
well, so that's kind of what I was saying early, is that I said we were talking about there's 5 or 6 guys here. Well, the earliest in a lot of boards is inside the top 10, not a number 1 pick, and then there might be a couple other guys taken in the first. So by the time the Colts are up, there's gonna be 3-4 guys left that, like I said, whether the Colts take them or not, are gonna get shots, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts make a move and get a quarterback and then take one to develop. And again, if you're thinking about types of quarterbacks the Colts are looking for, I'm telling you, it's athletes.
Yeah.
So you have to think like with Carson Wentz, if you're going to move on from Carson Wentz, you have to be a better decision maker and potentially like a better athlete. There aren't very many of those, And for the record, I was busy at work all day today. What happened with Deshaun Watson? That was on his stuff was on TV for a while, but I had it on mute all day. Did something happen with Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the multiple teams. The news came out that multiple teams would be willing to trade for him, even without a
Oh,
settlement on his case,
okay.
which makes sense because, as we all know, in the NFL, if you can play, and even more if you can play quarterback, no one gives a shit whether you unless you're convicted,
Right.
you can get away with almost anything. Teams just don't care.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like a young quarterback, what is Watson, like 27, 28?
Yeah, he's under 30.
Yeah, under 30, who already proved that he can be the guy. He can be like a top 5 quarterback.
Right.
And you know what? I mean, if a big if the case gets settled and it turns out to be nothing,
Mhm.
that's a guy I honestly would love to be on the Colts.
Deshaun
Just because
Watson?
just because
Yeah, I don't want to play against him.
if big if, because if those allegations turn out to be true, then you just no thank you, but no thank you, no matter how good you are throwing the ball. I don't want a guy like that. I don't want to be rooting for him. But if those allegations prove to be false, or they find that gray area,
Yeah.
yeah, take him.
I don't know what to think about Deshaun Watson. I feel like every time I've said his name in the last year, somebody's told me like, not only no, hell no, he's a scumbag. Full disclosure, I went and read it. I went and read the articles written about Deshaun Watson. I'm not gonna sit here and try to say whether he is innocent or guilty. That I don't give a fuck if he did it or not. What's important is what he is accused of. And from what the light reading that I did, am I wrong to suggest he's being accosted, right? I believe that, like, called out publicly
Yeah,
for presenting his manhood during a massage in which he was naked already in a sexual manner. Is that's
yeah,
what he's being accused of?
yeah.
Okay, I just clarifying. Okay.
It's
So he was in a situation where he was already naked. He became aroused. He rolled over. The girl noticed that he's got like a big dick, and it became like an issue. Now he's a fucking terrible human being. Like, I can see how
it's a
that could
complicated, yeah, it's a
spiral out
complicated
of fucking
situation. Yeah,
control. And oh, you're Deshaun Watson, lightning in a bottle on a shitty organization, and I want you to stick around because I think you're hot, right? You could think about a million situations where like a masseuse realizes like, that guy's a multimillionaire in my business. How do I keep him coming back, right? Probably do appropriate shit. And then again, like, I don't know why it's the male brain. I'm a broken human where my brain says, okay, so this article interviewed like 3 people that basically all have the same story. That's suspicious as fuck. And then they all went to the same lawyer. That's suspicious as fuck. And oh, by the way, he offered them money up front to just like shut the fucking shit out. I want to move on with my life. And they said
yeah,
no, they wanted to tell their story. Why do you think they did that? For
yeah,
gain. That if the guy is saying like, look, I don't even want to deal with this. I'll just give you $250,000. And you say, no, I need to tell my story of what? Because here's the problem. If I had read he forced the girl to suck his dick, you're goddamn right. I don't want that guy on my football team, right?
yeah,
Because then, oh, he forced someone to commit a sexual act on him. That's depraved. That's terrible. But that isn't what I read. The eyewitness account, the people saying you did this terrible shit to me, basically said I was massaging the dude face down. He's naked under a towel, and he rolled over and he was hard. That's what I read. And then he basically said like, I'm sorry, and then attracted to you. What do you want me to do? You know what I mean? It was kind of his reaction. And then again, there's like his version, her version. That's gonna happen. She gets to
yeah,
tell her
yeah. It's
fucking
gonna happen.
story.
Yeah,
We have never heard from him. What he says, he didn't. He's never come out and argued that. By the way, they've just gotten to run off. And you're reading the shit, and you're like, man, if I was just, you take the Deshaun Watson out of it, you take the fact that he's at a massage parlor out of it, and you just read 3 individuals' accusations against the same person. And when they're all basically saying the same thing, word for word, it gets real suspicious right there. And then just keep in mind that, again, I'm not saying whether he did the shit or not, or again, what I read that he did, I'm just head scratching like, does that sound cooked to you? Where he didn't want to be a Texan, he didn't want to play anymore. And they were like, if you're not going to play, we're going to tarnish your reputation so that no team wants you. And that sounds like dumb shit. A shitty organization would. It doesn't sound smart or like a good thing to do or like the right thing to do, but it sounds like something a shitty run organization like the Texans would absolutely fucking do. And yes, 100%. Again, I'm not saying like he didn't do anything wrong. I'm saying like the accounts I saw, it was just kind of like a head scratcher. Like, that's not why he's not playing. Frankly,
also, you know,
I think him being in a massage and rolling over hard, that if that's what happened, that's not as bad as what Juwan Howard did, which was assault somebody after they, for the record, kind of instigated the shit. He got 5 games. Right? For what amounts to simple assault. Okay. Deshaun Watson's never been charged. He's never gone in front of a judge and had to be like, yep, I did that shit. And what he is being accused of doing, I'm still like, I think he could have just admit doing the shit and move on with his life. Like, I don't even think it's not a crime. He's kind of a dick. You know what I mean? If the shit's true, he basically tried to be like, hey baby, blow me. I'm already hired. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of what he kind of did.
Yeah.
It doesn't say like he forced the girl's head down on his dick and like, oh, it was terrible. He used a towel. You know what I mean? None of that shit happened.
Yeah, it's just like.
Otherwise, you would be like, good God, get him out of the league. Like, who wants him, protect the shield type shit. And I get it. I'm off the rails. People are going to be really upset with that. But mostly I'm kind of making light of a fucked situation because I want to know, did what I just say, the Houston Texans organization went out of their way to tarnish that dude's career and tarnish his value because he didn't want to play for them anymore because they're so shittily run? Or did he really like repeatedly tried to get a masseuse to have sexual intercourse with him after a massage?
It's just such a complicated situation where that, you're like, I don't know what the fuck to think about it. Just so weird all around, especially, such a tough, such a tough
because they gave up all the
like,
value they could have got out of it up front. Right.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more fucked up. It's like, I don't understand the situation. I don't understand the situation. I'm completely ignorant, and at least I'm willing to admit it. Like I'm not saying I'm right, that the dude's innocent, that he didn't do anything wrong. I'm saying what the article. There's like a big article written about Deshaun Watson's situation, and I came away from it like confused. Like I have to be missing some information because it doesn't say he's not admitting to have done it. He never came out and did that. The public information was he reached out and attempted to settle and they declined, citing that they wanted to tell their story instead because they didn't want it to happen to anyone else. That's not why he's not playing. But he's definitely not being signed because it hasn't been resolved. So again, man, the AFC South's got some shit going on at quarterback, bro. Because isn't the big talk about Tannehill that Aaron Rodgers has bought a house outside of Nashville? Isn't that the sort of like, oh shit, Tannehill could be on the way out. Aaron Rodgers goes and plays in Nashville.
Yeah, it probably could happen. Yeah, see that happening.
We've kind of bounced around for a while. It's been about 45 minutes. Is there any burning topics in your mind you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Nothing more for me, man. Fuck, I'm tired.
Yeah, so it's always good to sit down with you and kind of chop it up here especially here in the off season.
Hopefully will we be having film by next week?
I mean, that's
Perhaps?
like I said, that's the hope. So today, just to recap that, the Indiana Cutters announced that they've hired a video coordinator. Like, so we're going to actually have tape. Now, the announcement did say something about game film and about it being including statistics when it comes back, and that was going to be available to us sooner. So just to clarify, I don't know that means practice is going to be canceled or not canceled, videoed. But again, it's a situation where I'm just going to hand my phone to the Nick and be like, hey man, when we're out
Please,
here and I'm
take,
throwing,
yeah.
I have like people that would love to see, can the old man fucking still do it? I'm obviously, I think it's gonna be like 34 degrees on Saturday. So we'll pray for no rain
No
or
snow?
snow.
Yeah.
It snowed last night. So today we were kind of dusting off, but yeah, so it was a little slick. It was a little slick today. So I'm kind of glad we didn't have a practice because it would have been sleeting if we'd have had practice today. So yeah, I definitely think we'll get some film of me throwing, and I can speak to a little bit of it. My head coach has said like, hey, you've got good form. Again, the only thing that he noticed was on throws to my right, like throws to the outside right,
Yeah.
that I tend to lean over to like get it over there, right? Which is normal. People tend to do that to their offhand instead of staying upright. And that's exactly what I said. As soon as he said like, hey, I noticed you're kind of leaning over you're leaning over your feet when you throw to your right. And I said, stay tall, right? And he was like, yeah, stay tall. Just stay tall. Same ball, stay tall. And then drop back, same ball, stay tall, right in the pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right between numbers. So yeah, I've felt pretty good so far. And my favorite thing to say about it is, 3 throwing sessions in, no residual arm pain.
That's great.
I'm having to ice because I'm being told to ice, not because I'm grabbing for it. Like, oh God, I got this shit on there. You know what I mean? My arms will fall off. So I'm happy to say that like throwing's not killing me, right? So anytime you're not actually burning up, you know what I mean, burning up your muscles, and
Yeah.
but I have had to deal with a little bit of a small tissue injury, and that's completely normal when you're 38 years old, and
Yeah, it
just
happens. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it. It's I don't the one on my hip now is giving me a little concern. It feels like a bruise. Does that make sense? Where it hurts to the touch, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely muscle, not bone, so it's not gonna broke anything, but it hurts to touch, and then it hurts when I bend my leg. So when I go like that with my leg, like it makes that hurt, and
Yeah,
you're
it
like,
certainly, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
fuck, that sucks. So I'll try to get that thing figured out. But yeah, I also went to physical therapy, so I could speak on that too. So I went to physical therapy for the first time in 16 years. I've been out of the Marine Corps, and just went to physical therapy for the first time. And she did sort of tests on my arm and said, "Hey, your actual right arm," which I've always been like super worried about. For the record, it's why I never went back to football. It's because I had shoulder surgery in the Marine Corps. Like, you'd be kind of an idiot to do that after they do considerable work on you to go fuck it up. But she said like, hey, your shoulder's actually in really good shape. And then she had me lay on my back, and she started pulling on my neck, pulling it towards her with my head in her hands. And she said, how's the numbness in your right hand? And I was like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
my pinky and thumb actually feel pretty good here. And she's like, did you ever have like a neck injury when you're in the military? And I was like, oh, they told me I dislocated my first rib. And she's like, oh, cool. So they never treated you for like a neck injury? And I was like, no, they did physical therapy on my arm because they definitely broke my arm. You know what I mean? She's like, no, I get all that. But Jared, they didn't do anything for a neck injury. And I was like, no. And she's like, yeah, but you have a neck injury that hasn't been treated. Like, okay, cool. And she's like, so hopefully you're not playing linebacker. And I was like, no, I mean, I'm going to try to not get hit. I'm going to punt,
Yeah,
I'm going to kick off, I'm going to play quarterback. She's like, oh, quarterback, like semi-pro quarterback. Are you getting any blocking at all? That's what she asked me. Like, is anybody
hopefully,
blocking it?
yeah.
And I was like, well, actually, they're returning their entire offensive and defensive line. That was kind of one of the main reasons I was like, hey, I could fucking come back and play for this team. They got all meat on that offensive line, like good blockers. Hell, if you're just smart, this offense hums. You know what I mean? They got good running backs. They got good number 1 and 2 wide receivers and tight ends. You know what I mean? We need depth. So that's one of the things I want to make sure we get out on the podcast. I get it. I waited to the fucking end to do it. We need players. You're gonna have to provide your own gear. It costs money to fucking do it, but every hobby does. But I think it's worth it, because you have to be in peak physical condition because you're running full speed as somebody else, right? So it's sort of a personal challenge. You sort of have to be self-motivated about it. I am, you know what I mean? I'm gonna finish recording this podcast. I'm gonna put it on YouTube while it loads. I'm gonna go work out, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm even though I've lost 40 like 46 pounds since December 26th. Now I'm gonna switch and work on building muscle. Like also for the record, I've learned this about myself this past week. I never took supplements. So I've never taken like creatine or protein. Apparently creatine is like the wonder substance, by the way. Then of course, like protein, I figured I was going to end up on it anyway, because the reality is when you start eating right and you cut out like sugar and bread and shit, it's really hard to get your calorie count up. And so when you're trying to build mass and you need like a gram of protein per pound you weigh, which for me would be like 270 plus grams of protein, that's really hard to eat. That's a lot of meat, right? So I think I've known and had it in the back of my mind, like if I want to actually build muscle and get strong and shit, I'm gonna have to like lift different, and I'm gonna have to take like protein 100 grams of it a day, because on a good day I can get to 150 160 grams of protein without supplementing it. I'm not gonna take steroids or anything like that. I have no interest. I would rather not play if I felt like I had to do that, but I'd definitely like dabble with like good protein, whey protein, and creatine monohydrate. I'm gonna try it. I feel like I'm and also Stampede Blue and Coltist fans might find this interesting. I got accepted and I'm going back to school for data analytics. So I'm going to get a certificate and a degree, and then I'm going to go back to like a bigger school to get my master's degree in data science. Great. So I've been saying I was going to do it, but again, I've always tried to be the kind of person that if I say I'm going to do it, I actually do that shit. But like I've told everybody, like I'm gonna I haven't told everybody, I guess, but I'm gonna start going to Soldiers to Sidelines, the actual Zoom meetings and shit like that, and try to participate in that, to balance that with preparing to play, and ultimately return to coaching. Right? It's just for me the playing is. I see it as like in my eyes, it's like a noble sacrifice, right? Like I see that these guys have toiled for years in mediocrity because they don't have anyone that can play quarterback that's just stable, that's just there. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could totally replace me and you could find somebody younger that's got a really good arm, but they're 1 year and done. You need somebody that regardless of who that guy is, this guy shows up every week, ready to rock, can actually do all the things. Sure, he's replaceable for now, right? But it's kind of crazy. I never really had this sort of work ethic when I was younger, trying not to live my life with regrets, but it's certainly something I'm learning about myself. Like I'm terribly consistent. You know what I mean? Like I actually do get up in the morning, my alarm goes off and I'm ready to fucking go. As soon as that shit, I'm up out of bed. Like, fuck, I'm ready to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Now it's helpful that we have dogs to take care of, right? That sort of like facilitate that movement. But on the whole, like, this isn't something it's kind of crazy. When I was a kid, that whole grind thought process is totally what I saw of sports, that it was just toil, work, 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 very little, all work and no play makes me a dull boy, right?
Yeah.
That's what football felt like for a lot of my youth, right? A lot of fucking practice for not a lot of game. Now it's not a lot of practice and a lot of game, right? Like you're gonna play a lot of football comparative to how much practice we're getting, because you're only gonna practice once a week, right? All of your other preparations on you, which is a unique challenge, because I think a lot of people in my position right now would quit. To be frank, I'm the only quarterback. There's no backup. There's nobody else. Nobody else wants to be behind me because they know they're squarely fucking behind me right now. Anybody that comes out there is gonna be behind me. They're gonna throw behind me, and they're gonna try to go up there and try to complete those same passes that I've been completing in shitty weather for 3 weeks, and you haven't been doing that. And you're gonna go out there and duff it. You're gonna put a bunch of balls in the dirt, and then they're gonna quit. They don't want to be out here because I look like shit and I haven't been out here. But me, I've been out here, sharpening my teeth. And that's one of the things I've said too. If I was friends with there's 2 other people that are supposed to play quarterback for the Cutters. If I knew those guys, I'd be shitty that they're not out there taking balls off me. So to save my arm, because I know I can do it. I don't know that either of them can throw, right? I know that one of them was a prior starter for them. And when you go and watch his film, his problem is he has no arm. He's all legs. He's going to lose a quarterback competition to me because I'm all arm, no legs, right? And all the fucking, they don't care about your legs in a quarterback competition. It's not what you're not running gassers for school credit. That's not how this works, right? It's who can throw the ball A to B, who can run your offense, who can memorize your playbook, right? And again, one of the things that bothers me before I let you go, last year we had to pare playbook down because guys didn't understand the shit. And here we are less than 2 months right here. We're 2 months from our first scrimmage and we don't have our playbook, right? So it's not all roses. And like I said, I don't have much support. But I've noticed, like, I'm up for the challenge. If this organization is going to grow, it needs somebody like me that's just a stable guy. Because if you don't have a quarterback that's just there, what are you going to do when you're done conditioning?
Yeah.
You can't hit each other. No, not even everybody has pads, right? So you know what I mean? You have to throw the ball. You got to have a football, and you got to throw it around. You got to have somebody that can do it. And the funny thing is that I always laugh is some guy will step up and say, "I could throw, coach," and I'm like, "Fucking throw then! Like, step up here and throw." And they'll get 4 or 5 balls out, and they're like, "Damn, fucking arm hurts." I'm like, "Yeah, it sucks, right? You want me to teach you how to throw it?" "Nah, I'm good." Cool. And then another guy will step up. Let me throw a deep ball, a fat guy. Like, okay. He throws one ball and he's rolling his arm out the rest of the practice. Like, fuck, dude. And I'm like, yeah, see, it's not for everyone. That ball only went like 20 yards. Right. I could flip it and it goes 20 yards, bro. Like, I know I got a good short range arm. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's kind of funny when your buddies are like, let me fucking throw a ball like all day, baby. Go right ahead. And we can use a college ball too. So it's a little lighter and a little more squeezy. You know what I mean? So you think these guys think they're gonna throw it to the fucking moon, right? And I'm telling you, it's not that way. Throwing a football is an art form. You know what I mean? And I'm excited to show people, like, this old man can still ball. Like, it's gonna be funny. Because you're gonna watch me play and you'll be like, he's such a cheap shit. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna see me hit the tight end. You're gonna see me hit the back out of the backfield, and you're gonna see me hit. I like crossing routes, so you're gonna see me hit the dig, see me hit the drag. You know what I mean? That makes you a pretty good fucking quarterback because that ball is getting spread around, right? And then I want to take the deep shot to keep the defense honest, right? It's just my deep ball doesn't look like everybody else's deep ball where they're throwing it 50, 70 yards down the field, right? I'm gonna try to get that ball out quick, right, and let the receiver run under it. But yeah. Let's get out of here. Like I said, I'm excited. I need to get some rest. You need to get some rest.
Yeah, let's get out of here, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's been the Kenny Moore episode that, like I said, I still think the
Number
Colts
20.
I got a competitive roster here. It's going to be a wild off season. I'm excited. Yeah, man. Go Colts, baby.
Go Colts. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.